Hey, this is James the Beach Bum. I just finished with my afternoon jog, and one of the things that I wanted to talk about was actually renting a place in the Dominican Republic. So it really depends on where you're living, but typically if you're in a beach town, people are really going to try to get over on you and make sure that you pay way more than you should. Typically one of the things is people will try to get 2 and 3 deposits, and that's one thing that I learned when I first came here. So I always negotiated only 1 deposit. And another thing that I noticed was people don't even like to give the deposits back. They'll come up with every single excuse in the world not to give you your deposit back, to the point where it became so widespread that the Dominican Republic actually made a law forcing landlords to put that money in a separate bank account. Some people still don't follow it, but they put it in a separate bank account just so they can give it back to the renter and make sure that they don't spend it on something else. But typically you'll have your landlords, spending your deposit money and then make an excuse. Oh, sorry, you broke this. You broke a teacup, so I'm not going to give you your $800 back. What are you talking about? But it's ridiculous. So you'll notice that, I hate to say this, but don't always count on getting your deposit back. And because you're in their country, you'll have issues getting it back. Sometimes you have to take people to court. I've had one guy actually take somebody to court and they were able to succeed and get their money back. But a lot of times people don't have enough time for that and things happen, so they're not going to fight somebody over $400 or $800. And another thing that I've noticed is depending on where you live, people will jack the prices up. I used to live in Cabarete. Now I live in Santiago. I'm visiting a friend here in Sosúa. But I noticed that the cost of living is a lot different. Cabarete is a great beach town. It's lovely, but it's way overpriced. I mean, I was paying way too much, and the amenities weren't as great. So even though my place was beautiful right there on the beach, I noticed issues with electricity, gas, maintenance. It was just a complete nightmare. But when I moved to Sosúa, things got a little bit better. The internet was still slow. I had to actually pay a company, the Lancer, for internet. I got 100 megabits per second, but man, I was paying at the time almost $300. But I needed it, for my job. I'm a software engineer. And then I moved to Puerto Plata and I got Claro, which is a lot cheaper. I only paid not 3,000, but 2,500 pesos for really fast internet. And then when I moved to Santiago, I got with the internet company and I only paid 2,500 pesos for 100 megabits per second. So it really depends on where you live in the island, because if you're in a tourist town, they might charge you literally 5 times more for the same service. Also, when it comes to renting, you always have to be careful. Make sure that you take videos of the property beforehand. That way your landlord can't make excuses. Also, when you're renting a place, make sure that you have water 24 hours a day, electricity 24 hours a day, and some type of backup. You'll go to some of these places where the water will go out. You'll be in a neighborhood. Hey man, why am I always having to, wait, half a day or sometimes in a full day to take a shower? This is a problem that I actually ran into, and I was paying way too much money. And I was paying hundreds of dollars to live, quote unquote, sub-American style. But, when I got my own place in an area that I liked, I got a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. Got my own, not generator, but an inverter that allowed for me to not have to worry about the internet going out, electricity going out, and I could, work in peace. As far as the water, it's always good to have a separate water tank, just in case they cut off water in the street. You can always have some type of backup, because I remember in one apartment complex, they literally did not have water for months. Luckily, I had another place to stay. Had another apartment. But, man, think about going months without water. Also, one thing that I did was have my own separate pump. Some facilities will allow for you to install your own water pump. I was in an apartment complex where the water pump went out and, the management company, they weren't using the maintenance money properly, and they didn't repair the pump for months. So luckily I bought my own pump. It was a lot better than having to buy giant water bottles, 5-gallon water bottles, which are actually only 50 pesos a dollar. You can buy 5 gallons of clean drinking water for 50 pesos. So that's another thing. A lot of things like food and water are fairly cheap. especially if you're in an area like Santiago or Santo Domingo. And apartments can go really cheap. Like you can get a nice place for $200, $300 versus Cabarete. You know, I was spending, you know, thousands of dollars just to live like really nice. But, you know, I see people rent anywhere between 11,000 pesos to 20,000 pesos in Santiago, and you'll be looking pretty good. More so towards the 15,000 pesos to 20,000. That's typically in a safer neighborhood, but that's nothing because that's a little bit under $300 to $400. And sometimes you don't even need that. You can find a great deal, a place for $250 to $300 without furniture. Now, if you want furniture, then you're going to pay a little bit more. Sometimes I suggest that if you do move down here, get a place with furniture first. You're going to pay more, but at least that you'll get acclimated to living in the DR, and then when you find the best furniture stores. And also, this is another thing, when you're buying furniture, don't buy it in a tourist town. It's going to be ridiculously expensive. You're going to be spending hundreds of dollars for really bad quality. That's the number one thing. If you're going to get your furniture, get it from Puerto Plata, which is still a little bit expensive, or Santiago or Santo Domingo, and the service to actually have it brought to you is very cheap. I know IKEA, even though they don't really have that great furniture, places like that will actually bring the furniture to you and schedule a time, and they do show up. So don't worry about them having to be on CPT time for some of you guys that know what that is. Another thing that I would say about moving down here and renting is always make sure that you know where your light bill money is going towards, because sometimes you might give some of your money to the landlord. Oh, hey, I forgot to pay the light bill. I forgot to pay this. I forgot to pay that. Make sure that you see the light bill yourself. Make sure that, you know, you have that number. Make sure you pay it yourself. That way they're not overcharging you for electricity. Electricity is very expensive in tourist towns. I mean, I was paying like $100 a month, which that's really expensive. But in Santiago, I literally only paid $20 for the same amount. I don't know how. Sometimes the electrical wiring in some of these older buildings isn't done well, and it pulls a lot more power than it should. I made sure that when I got furniture, like, you know, stoves, and I got refrigerators, that they were very low power. And you can get American style refrigerators and washing machines and stuff that really don't draw a lot of power. And I think my refrigerator like only uses the equivalent of $14 of electricity a year. That's what it said on the thing, and it's an amazing refrigerator. I love it. Same with my washing machine. Doesn't really use a lot of power, so my bill really stays down. Another thing that I ran into when renting was having to worry about people coming in and out of the apartment complex. You always want a place that's safe, that's gated, because you're a target, especially if you're coming from another country where you have a lot of money and you make more money in a day than some people make in an entire month. The typical salary for a Dominican is between 10 to 15,000 pesos. That's not a lot of money. That's a little bit under $200 to $300. So think about how you're spending your money. If you're throwing your money all over the place, you're going to make yourself a target. So make sure you stay in a place that's really safe. I'm actually going to do a couple interviews with real estate agents to talk about renting and also potentially buying in the Dominican Republic. I actually have 3 real estate agencies lined up to do interviews with them to talk about prices, titles, and what it's actually like purchasing in the Dominican Republic. Can you get financing? It really depends on your taxes, because they really do check your taxes. They check your taxes, they check your bank accounts in the United States. You have to give them authorization, but that's standard. They just want to make sure that you can afford what you're purchasing. They want people with a good track record of paying their bills on time. So I don't think that you're going to kind of slide through. But, you know, real estate here is cheap. So if you are having issues buying real estate here, then that's another problem, because real estate here is dirt cheap. You can find a place for $40,000 to $50,000, starting off like, you know, 2 to 3 bedrooms in a non-tourist area like Santiago. And $40,000 to $50,000 is really nothing, you know, for an initial investment. And then you can find other places for like $100,000, $150,000 in a nice villa, gated community area. And you can start getting into the 200s and, you know, 300,000s to find, like, really decked out, if you want to be a quote unquote baller, or you have a really large family and you want to make sure that they're in a safe community and have a really high standard of living. So anyway, that's it for this video. Renting in the Dominican Republic and finding a place to stay. Tune in for some of my next videos. Make sure to like and subscribe, and also leave some comments. Thanks, guys. Bye.